Fonds TV is vandaag in Amsterdam. We gaan praten met de beheerder van een nieuw fonds dat belegt in Europese opkomende markten. Waar andere fondsbeheerders uitwaaien over de hele wereldbol op zoek naar rendement, zoekt hij het juist dichter bij huis. En wij gaan horen hoe dat zit. Ik sta hier met Fahim Sefer. Hij is de beheerder van het nieuwe fonds van Fidelity, het Fidelity Special Situations Fund Europe. Dat fonds belegt in ondergewaardeerde aandelen in Europa en ik ben benieuwd waar hij die gaat vinden. Welkom in Holland.
Thank you very much.
Did you enjoy your stay?
Definitely. I'm looking forward to coming more actually, so very nice to be here.
Concerning the undervalued stocks, what do you see as undervalued in your opinion?
Well, basically, European Special Situations Fund is looking for only 35 investments among 5,000 investable stocks within Europe. So, for a stock to make it to the fund, it has to be an exceptionally misvalued company. And for me, undervalued companies are mostly in situations where the growth potential of the company is significantly underestimated. This could be because of the region they're in, this could be because of the sector they're in, but the main commonality is the growth potential, the future earnings growth potential of the company is not correctly priced by the market.
And you're looking for opportunities, I assume?
Well, opportunities are basically, there are lots of opportunities in Europe at the moment, either in certain geographies, like Southeastern European part looks very attractive to me at the moment, and we have big investments in there, or certain sectors that benefit from global growth that are based in Europe and that have good, solid earning growth prospects. So these are the types of companies that I'm looking in the fund.
And as far as results go, what are you looking for? What can investors expect?
Well, investors always basically to give this is exactly what's going to happen. It's very difficult, but the beauty of Europe is it's very diverse. So it brings, even though the overall picture of Europe doesn't look that great, with potentially a risk in overall economic conditions, the diversity gives a lot of opportunities. So for me, finding opportunities in certain sectors or regions can potentially yield good results for the fund.
What countries is the fund invested in this moment?
The fund has the flexibility to invest across all Europe, and since we're running a concentrated fund with only 35 holdings, the countries we're in is also quite concentrated. Currently, the biggest opportunities I see is in Southeast Europe, and we have around 20% of the fund invested in this region, countries like Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey. And the reason I find this interesting is it's one of the fastest growing regions of Europe because of increasing consumer expenditure and increasing infrastructure expenditure. And I can find a lot of ideas that benefit from these trends in that region.
Can you give an example of a stock you're investing in?
Rather than stock, I think the sectors that I look at and the main fundamentals that I look at is stocks that have very good risk and reward potential in that region. So just to give you an example, the average consumer expenditure in Europe is growing at 2-3% at the moment, whereas the consumer expenditure is growing around 9-10% in that region of Europe. And this is because the employment in that region is growing, the wages in that region is growing, and consumers don't have too much debt. So if we can find companies that benefit from increasing consumer spend and also have very good balance sheets, then this would be what the fund would be looking for.
What sort of companies get you excited?
Well, to me, actually, finding companies that are exceptionally misvalued is what I'm after. And when I can find companies like the ones that we're invested in, hopefully, that benefit from long-term growth and that is not reflected in stock price, these are what I'm after. And if we can find these early enough to benefit from the growth, that's the fund's goal.
So you're traveling a lot in the eastern of Europe?
Well, meeting companies at their own premises is always a much better way of understanding the company's fundamentals. You have more time to visit the management, you have more time to visit the divisions, also meet with the competitors, suppliers, and the regulators in those countries as well. So for me, understanding the company's business and the overall supply chain in their countries is very important. So traveling is a big part of the business.
What companies are you avoiding?
Well, at any point in time, the fund at any point in time is focused on risk and reward. So how can we maximize the reward potential per unit of risk taken? And for reward, it's important for me to minimize the downside risk as much as possible in any investment. So I'm avoiding stocks with balance sheet risk. I'm avoiding stocks with cash flow risk. So any stock or any company that I'm investing in or I'm looking to invest in would have a very strong balance sheet and financing. When economic times are getting tougher, if a company on top has financial difficulties, that would be an accelerated reason for losing money in that stock. So balance sheet health is very key for me in finding companies.
You already mentioned the economic downturn. What's the influence of that on the fund?
Basically, these kind of times bring a lot of, it's both a challenge and also it brings a lot of opportunities as well. It's challenge because the environment overall is weaker, but it's also an opportunity as well because if you can find regions or sectors that continue to benefit from an upturn, then these kind of stocks get appreciated more by investors at these times. So it's interesting times for me to find opportunities like this in certain sectors or geographies.
What sort of sectors are you looking for?
Well, basically, the most interesting sector for us is at the moment materials, and we have significant positions in agriculture sector, which benefits from a very tight demand-supply situation. And as we can see in our daily lives, agriculture prices are going up significantly. Any kind of food prices are going up significantly. So to find companies in the overall supply chain that benefit from this tightness would be an area of what the fund would be looking for.
The fund is allowed to invest 20% outside of Europe. Why? Aren't there enough special situations in Europe?
Well, there are a lot of special situations within Europe, and to invest outside Europe, this is an additional flexibility for the fund. As I mentioned, this would be one of the most unconstrained and flexible funds among the Fidelity network. And to give you an example, we would invest outside Europe if there are situations where we are looking after a certain type of a resource which is not available in Europe, but having this resource in the fund would benefit the overall European fund holders and it impacts the overall European consumer. So these will be the situations where we would go outside Europe and look for investments.
And does that influence the risk of the fund?
It does influence the risk of the fund. Normally countries outside Europe would be higher risk. However, the fund is always about risk versus reward. If a stock is higher risk, then the rewards we should be expecting from those investments should be significantly higher as well. So for me in the fund, it's always about finding opportunities and comparing the reward potential per risk across all these names and allocating the fund's resources in the ones that have the best potential on a risk-reward basis.
Should advisors put this fund in their client's portfolio?
Well, European Special Situations Fund among the Fidelity funds would be one of the most unconstrained and flexible investment mandates, and it would be positioned at one of the highest tracking error ranges among the Fidelity funds. So the fund would be slightly higher risk actually than the average Fidelity funds. And I think for any investors looking to find aggressive returns in the wider Europe, this would be an additional product for them that they can invest in.
It will add some spice to the portfolio.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Tot zover Fahim Sever en de speciale situaties in Europa. Wie wil reageren of prangende vragen heeft, kan surfen naar www.fonds.nl. Dankjewel.
Thanks for your time.